Hi all, this is a quick video to go over some of the comments I've received on the first two Tintin videos. To begin with, I want to say thank you so much for all the feedback I've received so far. I really do appreciate any comments I get, as long as they're civil. Please continue to leave your comments and of course like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. If you're interested in providing me with further levels of support, please have a look at my Patreon page or the PayPal me link in the video description. I am considering any worthwhile benefits to those who become Patreon members, but I am reluctant to put anything behind a paywall. If anyone has any suggestions, please let me know. I'm also aware that not everyone can afford to do so, but just sharing, subscribing, liking and commenting on my videos are also a great help. Anyway, on to the comments. Michael Knox-J5M says, "Thanks for a great video. Tintin in the Congo is a favourite and reminds me of my days in Croydon." Thank you. I hope, however, your days in Croydon reminded you of your youth reading Tintin, and not that Croydon reminds you of the Belgian Congo. TireX3673 says, "Soviets has always been a bit of a guilty pleasure of mine. It feels like a series of slapstick sketches loosely chained together without much narrative cohesion, but I like many of the set pieces. I read this comic before I was aware of the historical context, and first read many of the details based on propaganda as satire. I think this is why Tintin is so accessible and enjoyable for so many. The political aspect can be overlooked and the adventure itself can be enjoyed for what it is." Andrew Waring 2637 says, "Agrarious? Not quite sure what this is referring to. Perhaps I had misused the term within the video, but thank you for commenting nonetheless." Thrid Doctor says, "It would be a python, not a boa. I'm not a herpetologist, so I stand to be corrected on this. I'm fairly sure I came across this description during my research, as I wouldn't be so presumptuous to name something I know nothing about, but nevertheless, a python it may be." Madame Renault says, "More of these fabulous analyses, s'il vous plaît. Lifelong but not uncritical Tintin fan here. Thoroughly enjoyed your thoughtful and entertaining exposition. Merci bien." Thank you so much, this really means a lot. I certainly will continue to review each adventure, although please be prepared to wait some time between videos, as they do take some time to research, write and edit. Butch McPorksaw says, "Well made. Thank you." Narwhal Cheese says, "Tintin joining the Force Publique?" Quite. Jiangzem8 says, "The story was created at a simpler time when people travelled and understood less about the world. I'm not sure it's meant to be taken any more seriously than originally intended. Simply put, it was a fun adventure book for children to read, not much more. Colonial attitudes and racist tendencies aside, Tintin in the Congo depicts a backward culture and society struggling to find its way in the world, something that persists to this day. I read it as a child and thought it was just somewhat funny and sweet, not much more. Thank you for your insight. I do appreciate any comments which may differ from my own, but I do agree that it was written and published in a very different time." Bitter Berry says, "What a well-researched and fantastically edited video. I think you really hit the nail on the head with your critiques, and it's interesting to hear Hergé's changing stances towards his works, which I had never known. Thank you so much. I do so appreciate such positive feedback." Mad Dr. Caligari says, "Very good and well presented analysis. The only thing I think needed mentioning that wasn't is Tintin's role as a white saviour, a white civilised character who solves all of the non-white uncivilised characters' problems, and in doing so shows a supposed superiority over them. A narrative more often than not, and in this story certainly, used to paint imperialism as ultimately just." You're absolutely correct. I did briefly mention this aspect, but I didn't explore it as much as I would have liked to. Nonetheless, it is certainly worth noting. Ben Trigg 9128 says, "Testament to the quality here that you don't need to be a Tintin fan to enjoy this analysis. Again, such feedback is very touching and I'm glad so many of you are enjoying the videos." Queen Mernith-W9E says, "I bought the whole collection for my 8 and 11-year-old nieces, and guess what? They hated it because they thought it was inappropriate. They kept asking me why the non-Europeans were drawn and depicted this way, and I had no answer. They are smarter than I, it seems." It is very much a dated comic. to me at least, but it does demonstrate how much an improvement many of the later adventures are, and how they can be enjoyed by audiences of today. Alex_111 says, it reminds me of the depiction of the pirates in Asterix. Now, I admit I haven't read too much Asterix since I was a child, but I do seem to remember a Nubian member of the Phoenician pirate crew being drawn in a very stereotypical manner. Kanu Tomaka 4542. Apologies for getting that completely wrong. Tintin really did get a lot better after the Blue Lotus. I have to agree with this, as we will see once I reach the next few adventures, that although I consider them as an improvement, they fail to match the quality post Blue Lotus. John Pusey 1167 says, fantastic analysis, thanks. Thank you, Dad. Sneaky Ninja Dog says, it was also a work to order, so to speak. His then employer, the conservative Catholic newspaper. They wanted a story that showed how great Belgium was doing in the Congo, whereas Hergé wanted to do America, which is why he snuck the ending in that now on to America, ensuring that his next book would take place there. It was also worth noting that Hergé was very young during the production, in his early 20s I believe, and was put in charge of the comic supplement for said newspaper, for which he produced the bulk of the content early on. But I still agree that the story, if we can even call it that, lacks cohesion and is marred by all the stuff you mention, and redrawing it does not really change it for me. Yes, you are correct. I had mentioned much of what you stated in the previous Soviets review video, but I did neglect to reference his youth in Le Petit Vingtième in the Congo review, as I felt I would be going over tired ground. Nicholas Conde 4703 says, the irony is that a lot of what Hergé wrote about the Soviet Union reflected reality. It is also ironic that it reflects a lot of what is happening in Russia nowadays. A very sad state of affairs indeed. Nicky Ricky 25 says, I don't know when I subscribed, but I'm glad I did, smiley face. Thank you. Most likely you had subscribed in the first incarnation of the channel, none of which content now exists, but thank you for sticking around. John Pusey 1167 says, didn't know that Hergé pioneered the speech bubble. Fantastic background and analysis, thanks. Sorry, fascinating background and analysis, thanks. Thanks again, Dad. Yes, it was news to me also, but he was certainly one of the forerunners in Europe at least. Well, that's all for now, but please continue to leave comments and share with anyone you would think may be interested. Once again, if you have the means to do so, I would very much appreciate any support via Patreon or PayPal, as these are currently my only form of income. I have also joined Instagram, where I will post updates and random pictures, so if you're interested in that, please follow me by clicking on the link in the description below. I have another Titanic Tales video coming out soon for anyone interested in maritime history, but after that I do plan to work on the next Tintin review in America. So stay tuned and see you soon.